5 more mixing tips for you guys going right into 2025. These are all useful. They're going to help you get ahead, and I'm going to rapid fire them. I'm not going to waste your time, so let's go. Yo, what's good, guys? Inswain with Inswain Audio. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, subscribe and stick around because I drop videos like this every day. You're not going to want to miss them. Anyways, let's get into these tips. Here, I got a little mix pulled up. It's a rock song. I've previewed it before here on this channel, so you might have heard it. If not, no big deals. Let's take a listen to it right now. All right, there it is. The first tip is going to help you with leveling your vocals. So tell me you've had this problem, right? You're turning your vocal up and then it's too loud, and then you turn it down and then it's too quiet and it's buried and you can't quite find that sweet spot, right? Or maybe you think you have it right and you're like, is it too loud? Is it too quiet? Like, how do I even know? Well, first of all, it's all subjective. It depends on the genre. But if all else fails and you want a starting point, level it with the kick and the snare. If you have your kick, your snare, and the vocal as the 3 loudest things in your mix all leveled with each other, you're going to have a great solid foundation in most cases. Sometimes it's not a snare, sometimes it's a clap, but same idea, right? Kick / 808, whatever that low end thing is, plus the clap / snare, whatever rim, whatever that percussion is, plus the vocal. If you match those together, that's usually a good starting foundation. Check out in this mix how those 3 things are roughly balanced with each other: the kick, snare, and the vocal. I could even solo them for you so you can hear them individually. Right, it doesn't really sound like one is much louder than the other. They're all roughly the same. And that is the case in most songs, in most genres. So that is a great starting point if all else fails and you're unsure where to go. And the same thing applies for, let's say you have your kick and your vocal set, but you don't know where to do your snare / clap. Level it with these 3, right? Or maybe you have the vocal and the snare, but you don't know where to do your kick, right? These work in all directions. If you can get these 3 things kind of balanced, you got a great foundation in most cases. All right, moving on to tip number 2, and that is reference mix. Just generally speaking, reference mixing is going to make your mixes 10 times better for a million different reasons. For example, here I got a reference pulled up. We'll listen to it and then we'll listen to our mix and let's just see what happens. Here's the reference. Okay, and then now we will listen to our mix. Okay, now you're going to notice a lot of things about our mix compared to the reference that you didn't notice before, whether it's the weight, the frequency balance, the volume, the compression, any single thing you could ever imagine that has to do with the mix is going to stand out a little bit more because you just listened to a reference. So by reference mixing, it makes you aware of things that you were previously blind to in your own mix by getting that outside perspective. And you can be as broad with this as you want, like, you know, our reference versus our song here had the same vibe. So it's like, okay, they're the same vibe, good enough. Or you can get more specific, like, where should I make the kick, you know, balance to the vocal? Or you could get extremely specific, like, all right, I need to take out more 180 hertz in the vocal by 2 dBs, right? You can get as specific as you want or as general as you want or anything in between. But by reference mixing, it's going to give you that perspective you need to make an objective decision on your mix. Because if you're just listening to your mix in a vacuum, it's hard to know how it's going to stack up. So reference mixing is great. I can't even begin to describe to you all the ways it's helpful, but just in general, trust me, reference mixing is going to give you the answer. All right, and tip number 3 is editing is 75% of the mix. What I mean by this is editing out background noise, fixing timing if that's a thing that's needed, sample replacement for the drums, crossfades, removing clicks, pops, copying and pasting, arranging, anything that has to do with editing. This is 75% of the mix. If you don't remove all that unwanted background noise, you don't comp your takes, etc., all the things that have to do with editing, there's no amount of processing you can do that's going to fix that. Once you have the mix nice and edited and sort of mix prepped, then you can dive in and get creative, but that's that solid foundation that comes all from editing. And I don't have a good example here on this song because these stems were already cleaned up before, I downloaded them, but trust me, I've done it. I do it all the time. Editing is a big thing. And that's proof here because if this song wasn't already edited, I would have had to do all that for sure to make sure that this sounded good because it's so much more important. So make sure you get your song edited properly in order to get a good mix. There's a reason that the top mix engineers use mix assistants that prep their mixes for them in a specific way because it's so important. So it's not exciting, but it is important. All right, tip number 4 is parallel compression can help put the vocal right in your face. Really, any track for that matter, guitars, anything you want to use it on, parallel compression can sound good, but vocals are the most obvious and are in most songs, and in my opinion, the best thing for parallel compression. It's what I use it the most on. So if you don't know, parallel compression, instead of traditional compression where you put it directly on the track and it compresses the whole signal, parallel compression sort of creates a duplicate of the track and compresses that in parallel side by side, and you can blend it into taste. So I have send set up here. This send 11 right here and send number 12 right here are both parallel compressors. What I'll do is I'll play you the vocal in solo, and then I'll play it to you in solo with the compressors deactivated, and you can hear the difference. So here it is with the parallel compression. People of nature, blessed by man, darkness, light. And now I'll turn off the parallel compression. People of nature, blessed by man. So if you notice, it's subtle, but the vocal took a back seat a little bit. And you can get more extreme with this if you want. I like to use it a little bit more subtly, especially in this case, and do most of my compression on the track itself, but you can do it however you want. Now what I'll do is I'll play it with it on and with it off, with it on, with it off, back and forth in real time so you can hear that difference, starting with it off. People of nature, blessed by man, darkness, laughing, taking what it can. So it just jumps out a little bit more, and that's going to help you get your vocal to cut through the mix, that last 1-2% to help you cross the finish line that you always struggle with. Parallel compression might be the tool for you. And finally, my last tip is vibe is more important than quote unquote perfection. Let me show you what I mean. So in the intro here, we have some guitars that I filtered out, reverbed with a room reverb, made it sound like they're filtered and coming from another room. So it's sort of like objectively making them sound worse. I mangled them, but that's because then once the song fully drops and comes in, I release them from that filter in that other room and that reverb, make them sound nice and present, and it makes them hit even harder. It's kind of like I'm withholding you on that clarity, and then boom, you get it and it hits hard. Take a listen to that. I'll show it to you here. You'll see here these guitars are the edited parts, and then here is the non-filtered part. Check that out. So you notice how much harder the guitars hit right here once they come in fully, right? But watch how it was originally when I had them on the same track. So here is how it was originally without that filtering, and notice how, yeah, the intro sounds nice and full, but then once it drops and fully starts the song, it doesn't hit as hard. Check that out. Right, it kind of falls flat a little bit, and that's because we weren't withheld of that clarity. We already had these guitars, so then when they come in, it's like, yeah, been there, done that, right? But if you withhold, like we had here, then it finally comes in, it's like, oh, now it's screaming. I didn't even realize what I was missing out on, sort of thing. And that's just one example of how vibe is more important than perfection, because these aren't perfect by traditional standards, right? I purposely mangled them, like, cut off the highs, did some crazy filtering, and I did that on purpose so that when it comes in, it hits hard. So they're not perfect by traditional standards, but they add vibe and therefore makes them perfect, right? So vibe is so much more important than perfection. Obviously, the technical things matter and they give us clarity, but people would rather listen to a good song that was recorded and mixed bad than a bad song that was recorded and mixed good. You can't put lipstick on a pig, or whatever the saying is. So a good song is a good song, and the vibe is the most important thing. Obviously, you want to take care of your technical side of things, but vibe is king. The song is king. So there you have it, guys. There's 5 more mix tips for 2025. If you want to see the first 5 that I did, there will be in the description below. That video came out yesterday. And don't worry, because I got plenty more coming going into the next year. So if you liked it, let me know down in the comments below. Leave me a like and subscribe. You guys are awesome. If not, no worries, because I'll get y'all tomorrow, man. Insane with Insane Audio. Peace.